So we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 21st regular meeting of Newark Board of Education. Roll call. Meeting is called to order at 6:01 p.m. Roll call, please. Ms. Gutierrez.
Member Grindal?
Here.
Member Hill?
Here.
Vice President Nguyen?
Here.
President Zhang?
Here.
And Member Marquez is absent.
Okay. Approval of the agenda. May I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'd like to pull an item.
Which item?
Item 13.1, Board Committee Assignments. Since Member Marquez is not here, I'd like her to be part of that. The other two items, I think it's okay.
May I get a second?
And I'd like to pull an item 3.2 in closed session, ratification approval of TK enrollment. So I understand the logic that there's specific students that are being discussed, and that's maybe why it was put in closed session. But it seems to me it's actually a larger issue that's more, something that the public should be a part of, which is the policy, because we're talking about enrolling people that are of a younger age, and we're not going to get ADA reimbursement, so there's a fiscal impact to that. So I suggest that we actually repurpose that in a future meeting in public session, in open session.
So I think that item that day you asked the question about who actually make the decision about enroll the unfunded ADA for the TK, and I guess the superintendent said that's primarily the administrative decision. But we got to approve the specific students, right?
That's correct. The board policy is, which is based on Ed Code, it relates to approving of the individual students, not the expansion of the window.
Anybody want to second any of the motions? We have two competing motions here.
I move to approve approval of the agenda with item 13.1 re-agendized for the next meeting.
Second.
Second on that. Member Grindal, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Hill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yes.
My vote is yes. So item 13.1 is pulled. So before closed session, we have a public speaker. Ms. Parks?
I'm sorry, President Zhang, does Member Hill have a chance to make the motion to pull the item he suggested?
I asked for a second, so there is no second. Go ahead, Ms. Parks.
Thank you. I emailed all of you because I didn't understand the agenda description nor the purpose listed on the agenda. Thank you to President Zhang for responding to my email last night. He pointed out that the Ed Code section 35-146, the discussion allowed in closed session is other action except expulsion in connection with any pupil of the school district. He concluded in the email, specifically, we are approving the names of students that will be enrolled in TK. I would like to share with all of you my response that I sent to him today. I thanked him for his explanation concerning the closed session item. And if I understand your explanation correctly, adding information based on my own knowledge, the board is going to review the names of each TK student who is recently enrolled in Newark Unified School District and whose birthday is after December 2nd. If the board feels early enrollment is in the best interest of the student, that decision will be ratified. The purpose of the Brown Act is transparency and to promote public participation in local government. The agenda item description is not one of the safe harbor descriptions listed in the government code sections. The description does not adequately describe the business being conducted in order to give the public a fair chance to participate. I was not the only one who was wondering what business the board would be conducting based on the agenda description. It's unfortunate each student isn't already assigned a number so that this discussion could have taken place in the public. Such a broad description as ratifying and approving of TK enrollment leaves one to believe the board is reviewing the entire TK enrollment. I would like to know how many students you will be considering, and if you will be reporting out how many you accepted.
Is that the end of your comment?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I asked the question. Will you tell me how many you're considering, and will you be reporting out after?
Not need to, based on the rule of reporting out of closed session. On that part, I will need to consult with because this is obviously the first time we do this as well.
Yeah, this is the first time in 25 years I've ever seen this item on here. So you'll be reporting out, but you won't tell me right now how many you're considering.
Sorry, point of order, is this a public comment for responding directly?
No, I think no response to public comment, but
Well, that's not the way other governmental agencies handle it. Thank you.
we'll be moving into closed session. In closed session, we'll be discussing item 3.2, ratification and approval of TK enrollment. 3.3, public employee discipline dismissal release. 3.4, conference with labor negotiator, governor code. 3.4, conference with labor negotiator, employee organization, NTA and CSEA. 3.5, conference with labor negotiators, employee group NUMA, unrepresented supervisor, and contracted management. 3.6, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. 3.7, student expulsion, and we'll be back to open session at around 7. We're live. Good evening again. Welcome back to our open session. Before we start a regular order of the business, I want to make the announcement regarding the news that many of you have heard over the past weekend. And over the past weekend, we lost one of our dear teachers from the junior high, Mrs. Lisa Merrill. We would like to take a moment of silence to remember her and her contribution to our district and our community. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you, everyone. Next, Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to report of closed session actions. The board ratified on item 3.2, the board ratified 11 and approved 6 TK enrollments with a vote of 3 ayes and 1 no, Member Hill voting no. Again, in closed session, item 3.2, the board ratified 11 and approved 6 TK enrollments with a vote of 3 ayes and 1 no, Member Hill voted no. Moving on to employee organization, Superintendent. Ms. Gutierrez. Any employee organizations? Any speakers?
Yes, we have Numa here, and we have Ms. Ranhel. One second, while I unmute Ms. Principal Ranhel, you may begin. Ms. Ranhel, if you can hear us, you may begin. Oh, there we go. Sorry. I apologize, Ms. Ranhel. I think I accidentally muted you. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. You may begin. Ms. Ranhel, I think you are on mute again.
I can't hear you, but I will begin. Good evening, President Jin, Board Trustees, and Executive Cabinet, and members of the community. On behalf of NUMA, we would like to recognize the hard work of all of our staff as we continue to welcome students back to a positive campus and a collaborative school community. Whether that is in the form of fall-themed activities or anti-bullying and unity events with the help of our Newark Recreation staff is always looking for opportunities to engage with our communities. Our elementary school sites are implementing iReady to determine how to meet students where they are, adjust instruction, and provide accurate reports of progress at parent meetings. The secondary schools just ended Q1 and are looking forward to providing quality instruction so students are successful toward their college and career paths. We thank the board, all certificated staff, classified staff, and NUMA members for your support and dedication to our community. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Next speaker.
That's it for our employee organizations.
Okay, moving on to school spotlight, Coyote Hills Elementary, Superintendent Triplett.
Thank you, President Jun, and good evening to board members and staff, public, and community. Really excited to have Coyote Hills Principal Tomasini and also the amazing staff there here tonight to share some of the incredible work that's been going on at Coyote Hills.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Triplett, members of the board, and the Newark Unified community. I would like to invite any of my staff members who would like to stand up here. You're welcome to come on up and stand. Support of our school. Thank you. And I'm getting the presentation up. No, it's okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm really excited and honored to be here tonight to present about our fabulous school, Coyote Hills Elementary. Our vision is to empower students to be lifelong, empathetic learners, problem solvers, equity warriors, critical thinkers, and to persevere in a global world. When we started the school year, we didn't yet have a mascot or school colors, so one of our first activities as a school was to select our mascot and colors. And so you can see there the winners were green and blue for our colors, and we are officially the Coyotes. And you can see there some of the other options that students and staff had a chance to vote on. All of these options were representative of Coyote Hills Regional Park. So the 4 mascot options were, in addition to the coyote, monarch butterfly, the great horned owl, and the muskrat, which are all animals native to that land. And the both color options are representative of the colors of the land of Coyote Hills. So the green and brown represent the landscape there, and then the green and blue incorporate the water as well. And so green and blue, again, was the winner, and the Coyotes. So we're really excited to have the opportunity to have those identified so that we can start to have school shirts representing our community and signage in front of our school. We have our marquee there now in the front of our school that has the Coyote Hills name on there, and look forward to the opportunity to have a mural soon painted on the front of our cafeteria as well as the side of our cafeteria. So some exciting things to come for our community. And we have a fabulous staff, some of them represented here behind me today. When we came back in August, we had the opportunity to visit Coyote Hills Regional Park. Some of our staff members had never been there, and so I thought it was important for all of us to have a chance to say that we've been there at least once, and then to promote using that resource. So while we were there, we had the opportunity to start to build relationships with each other while we walked around and explored this great resource that's less than 10 minutes away from our campus. We also were fortunate enough, that top right picture there is some of the regional park staff who saw us walking around. I had spoken to one of them earlier in the week about parking, and so when they saw us there, they actually gave us a private tour of their visitor center that was closed that day, but made an exception and let us in, and we got a little private tour. So it was really great, and we were appreciative of their staff for letting us all see that resource. And although they're not all pictured here, we do have a very large staff, all of us working together to help build community and support our students. We've had a chance to start to have some fun on campus. Our students are working on building relationships with each other, getting back into the swing of things after many of them not being in person for more than a year. And so we've had students building relationships on the playground as well as in the classroom. We had our first Spirit Week last week, and so you can see here some of the students represented on Twin Day and Crazy Hair Day. We also had School Color Day, and it was really great to see the students participating. We also had, a Disney Day and a Sports Day. You can see there a number of one of our elite teams, Newark elite teams, represented from our campus. We've started to have opportunities for student leadership. So we have some of our 5th and 6th graders devoting their time during our recesses and lunchtime to help problem solve amongst each other and help promote positive behavior. And so you can see there some of them were in action during lunch. And we also have another student opportunity that we're recruiting for now for our 4th through 6th graders. We'll have a school newsletter. And so that's another opportunity that our students are excited about. Of course, while we're here is to make sure our students are getting a great education. And so you can see here some of the data that we started the year off with. We're currently in the iReady testing windows, so we don't have data from this year, but this represents both Graham and Snow's final reading data from the end of last school year. So as you can see, we did have a number of students from both schools who were performing below grade level at the end of last school year, and you'll see that represented as well here for math. And so to support our students, we have a number of things in place to help get them back on track. One of those is our SEAL program that our kindergarten through third grade teachers are being trained on this year. We are fortunate to have a SEAL coach dedicated just to our site, Kim Nickerson, and she is doing great work with our kindergarten through third grade teachers to support them with their professional development of the Sobrato Early Academic Language Model. And that's a model specifically designed to support our English learners, but it's really a great model that supports a wide range of learning abilities so that all of our students benefit from that. Kim Nickerson is able to model lessons in the classroom. She observes teachers to give them feedback. She helps with lesson design and is a great liaison between our SEAL trainers and our teachers. Other academic intervention or other academic supports include our intervention team. And so we have a great intervention team. We're fortunate to have 2 intervention teachers and 2 aides to support them, both of them bilingual. And so they're doing great work in their room, pulling students out of the classroom. They're working closely with classroom teachers to identify the needs of our students and identifying how they can best serve them in the intervention room. And then they work together with small groups in the intervention classroom to support them and help to improve their skills. That while they're pulling students out of the classroom, that also frees up and gives teachers the opportunity to have smaller groups of students to work with in the classroom. And so throughout the day, our teachers are providing time for one-on-one support and small group support in flexible groupings. They're differentiating instruction. And then we also will have an instructional leadership team that's supporting our site and our instructional needs. In addition to academic support, we have a number of supports in place to support our students' social, emotional, and behavioral needs. And so some of those are our PBIS program that we have across Newark. We have a PBIS team of teachers who are helping to guide that work as we are merging both the Snow and Graham philosophies and things that we had in place with PBIS. We are, with our PBIS program, we have positive rewards in place for individual students as well as classrooms. And we are working hard to promote positive behavior and just help to make students make the right choices throughout the day. Our 3 main school rules that you see there are be respectful, be responsible, and be safe. We also have our coordination of services team that meets every week. We, in those meetings, we are talking about students who need any kind of support, whether it's academic, social, emotional, behavioral, and even talking about students who may need support at home and if their families need resources. We're making sure that they get connected with resources in the community, as well as at the school site. One of the resources that we have available to our students is a mental health clinician through the East Bay Agency for Children partnership that our district has. And so we're fortunate to have a mental health clinician dedicated to our site. And she works with students who have Medi-Cal and are in need of mental health support. She does have a full caseload, so our EBAC, with our EBAC relationship, they're actually in the process of working on hiring an additional mental health clinician that would be shared part-time at our site as well as with another site. So we're looking forward to extending that opportunity to our students. Our district, as you may know, is implementing Character Strong this year, and so some of the posters here I see up in the room as well. But these posters are across our campus just to continue to promote that curriculum. Our teachers are all implementing it in their classroom, and again, just doing all that we can to support our students' needs. Just another upcoming event that's coming up and exciting for our community is next week. We'll have the opportunity to have a costume parade, and so parents are invited to watch from behind the fence, but we'll be parading past the fence in costumes next Friday at 8:30 in the morning. So that's something that our students and staff are really excited about. And thank you for listening tonight. And again, it was my honor to present. And I thank my colleagues behind me for coming to represent our Coyote Hills staff.
Thank you. Student board member, any comment?
I think this is amazing. I love everything that was presented, and great work. I am so sorry for the microphone.
Thank you.
Member Grindal?
Thank you for the, thank you for the work you're doing, and thank you for the fantastic presentation. Appreciate it.
Member Hill?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Tomasini. And quick question for you. So I know that you mentioned that you're just starting testing right now, so you don't have, good baseline. But just anecdotally, right, we know all over California, we're coming back to school and we're experiencing learning loss. And I'm just curious, kind of anecdotally, what are you seeing, and are there particular areas that where we see, challenges that we need to pay attention to?
Yes, thank you for asking that. We do have, that is a challenge that we're facing. One area that I know I've heard consistently across the site that students are struggling with is writing. And that's an area that, supporting students with writing virtually was definitely a big challenge. There were not as many opportunities to support students closely with writing the way we do when we are in person. Reading comprehension with, the deeper level comprehension skills is another area that has been a challenge for students. And so those are both areas that our intervention team is able to support with. And, there are some students that weren't affected as much, but, whether it's academically or emotionally and behaviorally, with all of those challenges that we're facing, we're working together as a site to make sure that we're addressing those.
Great, thank you. And I think it's great you have that intervention team. So yeah, thank you.
Member Nguyen?
Hi, guys.
Hi.
So I just wanted to say a special thank you to you, Ms. Tomasini, for your leadership, and obviously the staff there at Coyote Hills. It has been difficult for you guys. I know that the impact with the consolidation and along with COVID and everything else, you guys have really persevered, have been resilient, and I'm just grateful that you guys are here tonight. And I know that you guys have a strong team there at Coyote Hills to be able to support the students. And I'm just excited for you guys to continue the hard work that you guys have been putting in. And I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for pushing on, even though we made that hard decision and impacted you guys so much. So we really appreciate you and your staff and all the teachers there. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to echo all the rest of the board's comment in thanking you and your staff for the hard work that you put in this really unprecedented times. And really thank you for the good work. And hope you have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you. And I just want to stress one more time, as some of you said, that really we're only in October, but it has felt like in some ways has felt like it's been a long school year with the challenges we've had, and we really couldn't have gotten to where we are and won't continue to be able to support the way we are without the team effort that our staff is putting in. So I am really grateful to have such a great staff that's supportive of each other and so supportive of our students. So again, thank you to all of them. Oh, and yes, so sorry I'm getting emotion too. I should be introducing them. So thank you. Here we have one of our 4th grade teachers, Miss Maggie Baylon. One of our 2nd grade, actually our 2nd and 3rd grade teacher, Miss Christy Palomino. Our science department, Rachel Bloom. One of our 5th grade teachers, Miss Melvillo. And one of our intervention teachers, Christine Lung. Oh, yes. And then we do, at the back of our wall here, we have evidence of some of the great work that's happening here on our campus. And so we have a number of grade levels represented here across the site with a lot of the great work that they've been doing this year. So again, thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you. Moving on to public comment on non-agenda items. Ms. Gutierrez.
Okay, we are public comment. The first public comment is a live presenter, and it's Seth and Stacy Erchinger. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. We wanted to talk about sixth grade science camp. We are parents of BGI, and it was brought to our attention yesterday that BGI made all the criteria happen for the students to go to science camp, and that the other schools chose not to participate, and they want to shut it down for BGI. So we're here to represent BGI and say our children, the parents, the faculty did all that they needed to do to make it happen for the students, and it should be, it should happen for BGI, since they chose to participate and made all the criteria.
Yeah, so, I don't know why, with 7 months away, science camp is actually going to happen. I know it has to be reserved in advance, but it feels like there's a decision happening now. And so I was hoping that we could communicate to the other schools. There's possibly time to have some chaperones volunteer, have the parents put together the $350 per child, I believe is what it is, and still make it happen, because when we were kids, when we were all kids, sixth grade camp was one of the best times ever, and so we really hope it doesn't get pushed aside for maybe a reason that we can avoid. I mean, she's volunteering. I'm not volunteering if I don't have to, but if I have to volunteer for music or Kennedy, then I will as well. And, maybe that's an option that we can communicate to the other principals, the other schools, the other teachers, to enlist the parents and so on. And I'm assuming there's time to do that. So I implore, hopefully, your guys' communication to the different schools and teachers and so on.
And if we need to help get other volunteers, whether it's from a big corporation that has volunteer hours, we can do that.
Which she works for Cisco, right?
Yes. Sorry. Yes, so if that's something that can be discussed, if I can help out getting corporations coming in and help volunteering for sixth grade camp, let's make this happen for the children.
And there was also an issue that it was like, the parents from the other schools thought it was unfair that formerly Milani BGI have science camp if the other schools don't, which really seems like a non-issue to me. It seems so ridiculous. So I don't know what the decision-making factors are, and maybe it's a financial thing, maybe it's a volunteer thing. I'm not sure what it is, but if we can communicate to the schools, maybe we can make it happen for at least BGI.
Thank you.
And possibly others.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speakers are online. The first speaker is Angelica Whipple. Ms. Whipple, you may begin.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you may begin.
Perfect. All right. Good evening, board members. I'm Angelica Whipple, a sixth grade teacher from Birch Grove Intermediate, and I'm making this public comment on behalf of the fifth and sixth grade teachers at our school site. We would like to request that the board make an exception to the policy that all chaperones on overnight field trips be over the age of 21 in the case of fifth and sixth grade students attending accredited science camps, or outdoor education programs. NUSD students have attended these programs for well over 20 years and have always had a mixture of science camp staff, classroom teachers, and high school or college-aged cabin leaders. We are simply requesting that you allow what has been in place to continue. This exception should apply to this school year as well as future school years for any accredited science camp or outdoor education programs. Thank you from the BGI 5th and 6th grade teachers.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Whipple. 1 second. The next speaker is Elizabeth Guerrero. You may begin.
Good evening, Dr. Triplett and Board of Trustees. We, the representative of Newark Parents for Better Schools, are here to continue addressing ongoing disrespect and lack of communication that we continue to see across our district for our Latinx community in our Title I school. At the board meeting of September 16, 2021, President Zhang, while I was making my public comment about the translation that Ms. Lucia Gutierrez had done at the prior meeting of September 2nd, 2021, for one of our concerned parents of Newark Parents for Better Schools, President Zhang, you made the following comment, I quote, "I'm sorry, in this meeting, I generally do not allow people to attack private citizens in the meeting. You can talk about the superintendent or the board members individually, not private individuals. So before we move on, I do want to generally address the public comments on the agenda to not do that. I think talking about the board members and superintendent are a fair game because we are elected officials. We are here to criticize, but not in a public meeting to talk about private individuals who are not elected officials in this setting. Hopefully we can all adjourn to this rule," unquote. Let us remind you, President Chung, on the bylaws 9232, section 6, row 2, states the following, I quote, "The board shall not prohibit public criticism of its policies, procedures, programs, services, acts, or omissions." Governmental Code 54945.4.3. In addition, the board may not prohibit public criticism of district employees. Therefore, Ms. Gutierrez or any district employees is subject to criticism by the public. Furthermore, your special education director holds a California administrative credential, not being on a union or warranty union protected status. Newark USD continues to pass resolutions like the wind blows in any direction, by any means necessary, not engaging any families or even asking our prior opinion. Why are important documents not being translated? Why are our families not having interpretation at important meetings? Why are you not involving the parents in the decisions making? Again, we do have more than 20% Spanish speaker families in almost every school site. And let us remind you again that the State Department of Education requires that you provide written translation and interpretation for 15% or more of the specific subgroups. Please keep in mind, we are a critical piece of Newark community. We see that you are losing students every year, not just because of the cost of living in the Bay Area, but because of the lack of transparency, disrespect, and lack of effective program services for our students. We will continue to be present and vocal at the student board meetings. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Mónica Quiroz.
Buenas noches, doctor Triplett y miembros de la mesa directiva. Nosotros, los representantes de los padres de Newark para mejores escuelas, estamos aquí para continuar recordándoles la falta de respeto y comunicación que continuamos viendo en todo el distrito para nuestra comunidad latina y nuestra escuela Título 1. Nuestros padres de aprendices de inglés, educación especial, aún no reciben los servicios que muchos de sus hijos deberían recibir. Hemos escuchado de muchos padres el programa de educación individualizado se está retrasando y que los servicios no siempre se brindan. Por ejemplo, apoyo del asistente de maestro y evaluaciones. Una vez más, ¿dónde está la doctora Hamilton y cómo está brindando apoyo y capacitación? Es una pregunta válida y si ella estuviera respondiendo las llamadas telefónicas o correos electrónicos, nadie estaría mencionando su nombre públicamente. Gracias por el letrero electrónico de Coyote Hills. Sin embargo, no estamos contentos con la falta de comunicación del líder de esta escuela. Hemos estado escuchando, muchos de nuestros padres no están recibiendo correos electrónicos o cartas para informarles sobre reuniones importantes. Y aún así, la señora Tomasini no ha tenido ni una sola reunión con los padres y la comunidad. Los padres de esta escuela se sienten desconectados del liderazgo. El año pasado, usted nos prometió que íbamos a tener una gran líder, pero eso no es el caso. El mal comportamiento de los estudiantes es un problema constante y los padres no están siendo informados de manera oportuna. Y nos preguntamos si están llevando a cabo investigaciones antes de suspender a nuestros hijos. Muchos padres no son atendidos y se quedan en la puerta esperando. Nadie contesta el teléfono de la oficina cuando se necesita hablar con la directora o se tiene alguna pregunta. Doctor Triplett, la persona que usted y su equipo eligió, sin escuchar a la comunidad o a los padres, parece que no está funcionando. Ustedes ignoraron los comentarios públicos que se hicieron en cada reunión escolar. Usted, presidente Shane y vicepresidenta Noel, ¿también lo aprobaron? ¿Dónde está el plan escolar que se formó y cómo lo estamos siguiendo? ¿Dónde está la equidad? Tengan en cuenta que somos una pieza crítica de la comunidad de Newark. Continuaremos estando presentes y vocales en las reuniones de la Junta Escolar. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Ms. Gutierrez, you going to translate?
I will be summarizing and interpreting this message. The members from the Newark, certain members from the Newark Latin community are feeling disrespect and are feeling that their students are not being provided the tools to succeed. There isn't enough services for students with IEPs, and the services are not being provided. There isn't enough communication from the Coyote Hills principal, and there hasn't been a meeting with the community from the Coyote Hills principal. There is disapproval regarding the selection of the principal, and there is frequent bad behavior from students which is not being addressed appropriately. There isn't proper investigation done for suspensions or behavior-related issues. And Dr. Triplett, you promised that the leadership selection for the new Coyote Hills Elementary School was the best. However, you have failed the parents. And where is the school plan that's supposed to be followed? And the members from this community will continue to be here and will continue to be heard. Thank you.
Next speaker.
That is all for the public speakers.
Moving on to Superintendent report, Dr. Triplett.
Thank you, President John. Ms. Gutierrez, could you put up the slides, please? All right, so this evening I wanted to speak on three topics. And that is to give the board a update on science camp. I know there's been a lot of questions and I think some confusion and possibly some misinformation that needs to be clarified. And secondly, wanted to share about progress around the music consolidation process. And then lastly, share out around the work that we have begun with the sixth grade transition and the move from a junior high to a middle school. So first, just wanted to clarify some things around science camp, because like I said, I think there's been some confusion about this. Can you go to the next slide, Ms. Gutierrez? So, first of all, because of COVID, we did need to make a decision this year around whether or not there could be science camp at the beginning of the year, between now and January. And based on COVID guidelines and the need to make sure that we are keeping all students and staff safe, we had to make a decision to hold off on science camps until January. And so in January, we're revisiting based on how the situation with COVID will be at that point. And my hope is that we'll be able to, based on changes in the pandemic, that we'll be able to have science camps this spring. I don't actually think there was any science camps scheduled for this fall, but nonetheless, we did have to indicate to the schools that did have to hold off until January. And the real reason for that is because overnight camps, students would be in closed quarters together, and that requires a mask mandate, and it's not possible to sleep in a mask. And so we had to follow through with that based on the health and safety guidelines. There has been some confusion about high school mentors, and so my understanding is that on many of the trips, depending on the partner organization, that they utilize high school mentors as part of the trip. That is fantastic, and so we want to continue to encourage that and support that. I think it's a great program and a great idea. The board policy does require that there is a 10-to-1 ratio of student to chaperone, and that is for all grades 4th through 9th grade. And so we do need to adhere to that policy, I don't have any doubt that that's been adhered to in the past, but we're really focused on and making sure that we continue to adhere to that. The board policy states that chaperones must be 21 years or older. And so those are sort of some of the guidelines and the things that we really want to express. We are fully committed to supporting all our schools to continue with science camp. And so the misunderstanding that perhaps certain schools are not going to be able to do science camp is just simply not accurate. So we want to continue to support them. There is one school that has already made reservations for science camp for after January, and that's fine. And so the other schools are currently trying to determine what would be the best option for science camp in the spring. And so we're working with those schools to identify different partners that would be good to work with and different options. Fortunately, we are in a place in the country where there's an unbelievable amount of resources for outdoor education and a lot of different organizations and spaces. And so we're optimistic that we'll be able to support all our schools, all our elementary schools, to find really excellent places to do science camp this year. And we're also really hopeful that the pandemic will allow for that. I did also want to say that I've been just so impressed with this idea of science camp, and I think what we really need to do is expand this out to the other grade levels. So our goal this year is to build a plan, an environmental literacy plan, that would create different outdoor education opportunities through all the grade levels, TK to 12. Of course, the youngest ones it might not be an overnight trip, but really want to think about how we expand the incredible work of the science camp to all of our students at lots of different grade levels. So I do want to encourage both community and staff and board to participate in that process as we try to build out a more comprehensive environmental literacy plan for the year and for years to come. Next up is information about the music consolidation process. So I just wanted to give an update on the work that we have been doing and the engagements that we've been doing and then what our plans are. I'll go relatively quickly through this, but can continue to share with the board as we progress through the year. So essentially you see here timeline with two focus areas, enrollment and staffing. And so in September, what we did is we began to draft a new boundary map, which you all, the board has saw in the last last board meeting, excuse me. And so that will really help us, once approved, to then define the projections of where students from currently at music would be enrolled for the upcoming school year. Likewise, we in September met with the music staff to hear concerns and to answer questions, and then also to just establish communication around for the year. We then met again with the music teachers in October, and then likewise met with the music classified staff. And we are in the process of engaging with our labor partners around what is currently in the CBA, and if there needs to be any adjustments to really support our music staff as they are transitioning to other schools for the upcoming school year. Then likewise, we are planning to meet with the music families next week and discuss the options in the enrollment process. And then our goal is by December that we will actually be able to identify for families where the options they have for the upcoming school year. And what we really want to do is give every music family not only the homeschool option, the option of their like local school, but then also allow them the option of requesting 2 other different schools as well. And then we really want to try to get at least one of those 3 options for every music family. So you can read some of the other things that will be happening throughout January, and then we have additional timeline after January that I'm happy to share at a future meeting. Lastly, wanted to talk quickly about our what we're calling the middle school design. Oh, there we go. Middle school design team process. So we've just kicked this off, and this is something that we will be doing throughout the school year. Last year, with the merger of Graham and Snow, we had a much shorter time because we began that in January, February. But with this design team, we'll be meeting throughout the year. We have sent out invitations to all families and all staff regarding encouraging people to apply to be on the design team for the new middle school. And so you can see up there, the goal of the design team will be comprised of those different stakeholders. So we have lots of different voices in the room. And we have been getting applications. The deadline was the end of the day today. And then we hope to be able to announce the design team members by Monday. Our first meeting of the design team will be the 28th of October. And just want to, well, actually, the next slide, Ms. Gutierrez will explain a little bit more about the role of the design team. There we go. I apologize for how much text there is here, but this discusses what is the role of the team. So as you all know, we have different committees and different other groups in our district and in all districts. This is not a committee in the sense of it's not like an advisory group that just gives feedback on stuff, but this is a team that is actually going to really do some of the work, the heavy lifting around creating and defining the mission, the vision, and the design of the new school. That'll be a middle school instead of a junior high. So I'll let you all read those different bullets, but this is what we've sent, part of what we've sent out to all families and staff to really encourage them to apply for this. And I believe that is all for this evening.
Thank you. Student board member, any questions or comments?
I actually have a question regarding why we want to change. I just don't know.
Yeah, thank you. So last year, the board made a decision to have the 6th grade transition to the junior high and for it to become a middle school. There's a lot of research around why a 6, 7, 8 is a much better model than just a 7, 8 junior high. And in fact, Newark is one of the very last areas that still has that 7-8 rather than a 6-7-8. I think there may be one other school in, maybe in Fremont, but in general, throughout all of California, and really most of the country, has moved to the 6-7-8 model. And I'm happy to talk more about that, but one of the reasons is that just the 7th and an 8th grade, it's really hard to build a community, a culture. It's sort of very transitory. And when you have the additional grade level, it really allows for the building of a really strong school culture and really allows time for the teachers and staff to support the growth and development of the students.
I see. Thank you.
Other comments from the board? Member Gundel?
Just want to thank you for the clarifications about science camp. I'm strongly supportive of that effort and that opportunity, and sounds like this school district staff is as well. And hoping that come January things will have cleared up enough that we can go forward. So I appreciate the update and providing the information. Thank you.
Member Gundel? Member Hill?
Thank you, Dr. Triplett. Yeah, three just clarifications. So the first one was related to the science camp. So I think you clarified that the requirement is that we have chaperones and it's a 10-to-1, but that's not going to prohibit other people like high school mentors from participating. And then just out of curiosity in terms of the chaperone ratio, so I'm imagining that if the mentors are over 18, they wouldn't require a chaperone. I'm just trying to clarify. Or are they going to be included in that ratio?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've had to get clarity around that as well. So if one of the high school students is from Newark and is working through Newark, then they would, and they're under 18, then they would be considered part of the student body. But my understanding is that the camp does also enlist and hire high school students that aren't necessarily from Newark, and they're really getting maybe even paid through or volunteering through the organization itself. So those wouldn't be counted because those would not be Newark students.
Okay, perfect. And then the other two questions are so related to both the music plan and then also the upcoming design team effort. So can we get those plans put up on the website? Maybe they're already up there. And then also, do we have project managers identified for each of those efforts?
Yeah, so, sorry, you said get the plans put up onto the website?
I think part of that is what you were showing up there. So, but essentially, right? It's your timeline. It's your set of different tasks and milestones.
Oh yes, absolutely. And the reason for my clarification is because we will also post once the design teams have built out a plan for the school. Then we'll post that as well. But yeah, we'll certainly post the timelines, and then similar to what we did last year. We'll post the agendas for the design team and then also a summary of what happened in each design team meeting. And we did that last year, both in English and Spanish, and so we'll do that again.
And are we appointing project managers for each of those efforts?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so we have hired in education we call it a facilitator to help drive the design team work for the middle school. With the consolidation, that is an internal team that's leading that. Consolidation of music won't involve any sort of design team from stakeholders because there's not a design element to it. But all of the district staff are supporting with that effort.
Member Nguyen?
Just a clarification question. In terms of the 10-1 student ratio for the science camp and the board policy stating that the chaperones have to be 21 years or older, normally I know that, let's just say there's 20 students going to science camp, and in previous years, the sixth grade teachers would be attending, so that would qualify as, staff would qualify as chaperones.
Yes, that's correct. Staff qualify, parents, families, and then also staff that are from the organization. So, yeah, all of that
Great,
qualifies.
thank you.
Quick question about the middle school transition. So will there be a renaming of the school?
That's a good question. I think if the board wants to direct that, it would make sense that this is no longer going to be a junior high. It'll be a middle school. And so if the board sees fit to go through that naming process, we'd certainly follow that direction.
Okay, thank you for your report. Moving on to student expulsion. 10.1, I move that we approve the expulsion case E2122-01. May I get a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Member Grindal. Member Grindal, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Hill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yes.
My vote is as well. Motion carries with 4 ayes. Member Marcus is absent. Student board member doesn't vote on expulsion. Moving on to 10.2, stipulated expulsion. I move that we approve the expulsion stipulation for case E2122-04. May I get a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Member Grindal. Member Grindal, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Hill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Nguyen, how do you vote?
No.
My vote is yes. Motion carries with 3 ayes. Member Nguyen voted no. Moving on to old business, boundary for music elementary school consolidation, which the board actually visited 2 weeks ago. Any additional questions? Today is the action day. Seeing none, I move that we approve the new boundary for the consolidation of music elementary school effective the 2022-23 school year. May I get a second?
I second.
Seconded by Member Nguyen. Member Grindal, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Hill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yes.
My vote is as well. Motion carries with 4 ayes.
Point of order, sorry, President Zhang. Student board member?
Sorry. Student board member, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion carries with 5 ayes. Member Marcus is absent. Next, ESER 3 expenditure plan, which the board visited 2 weeks ago. Any additional final questions? I move that we approve ESER 3 expenditure plan as presented. May I get a second?
I second.
Seconded by Member Nguyen, student board member. How do you vote?
Yes.
Member Grindal, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Hill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yes.
My vote is yes as well. Motion carries unanimously. New business, 12.1, update administrative regulation, 1220, Citizen Advisory Committee. Superintendent Triplett.
Thank you, President Jun. So this item is really to update the board policy. Actually, I believe it's a administrative regulation. And just a little background. So a while ago, the state decided to change the requirements for committees such as the ones articulated here, and make it from a Brown Act regulated committee to a Green Act regulated committee. And the reason for that is because these committees are community committees, and so it was restricting the community to be able to actually have discussions outside of the meeting, which is the whole purpose of that kind of parent advisory engagement, is that they can then go and talk with their fellow parents and fellow citizens. And so we, in Newark, we unfortunately did not make that change, and so we really want to just correct that today.
Thank you. So my comment on this is, I did have one parent that once told me that after the last year's this committee is, he will, for one feedback for improvement, he would rather have the option and the ability to talk to parents outside of this committee, because we're bounded by previous rule that sort of limit their communication. Any other questions and comments? Member Hill?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with this change because I think there are a lot of issues that haven't been spelled out. I mean, And the other concern I have is given, the issues that we experienced with the LCAP last year, I think that we really need to err on the side of more transparency versus less transparency. I think it's a best practice, and then also I think it improves basically, community support. So I think we ought to delay. I think this needs to be spelled out more before we take a look at this.
Any other comments from the rest of the board?
I support the change as presented by staff.
I would like some clarification if I could ask.
Yeah?
So from what I was reading, the Green Act establishes district public meeting requirement for those parent committees. Would that mean, obviously, parents being able to communicate outside of the meetings, and what else is involved with that?
Superintendent, can you?
Yeah, so it means that unlike the Brown Act has very strict rules about both being able to communicate outside of the meeting with each other, as well as rules around having to document certain, like taking roll call and those things. The Green Act it does not have that same level of strictness about the meetings, but they're still public meetings. They're still open to everybody. They're still transparent in the sense of showing the agenda and all those kind of things.
Is that the only difference then?
There may be other details that I'm missing, but that's the general gist.
All right, thank you.
I guess the major difference is whether, like, outside of the public meeting, how many people can you collaborate with, right? Because at Brown Act is strict. You cannot collaborate with more than the majority, more than half of the member. I think this doesn't have that limit anymore.
Yeah, that's the main intention.
Yeah, let's say if you have, like, say, 10 parents, before you can only talk to another 4 parents. You cannot talk to the majority of them. Member Hill?
Yeah, again, given that the LCAP is really an important foundation or a cornerstone in our whole process, I think it's really important that we have community involvement and that it's completely transparent, and we don't want to have issues where there are sidebar conversations or again, a perception that there could be potential collusion. And so I think it's really important that we keep a stricter protocol, at least until we've got some, a really good track record around this. But I think that given the concerns that were raised from the last time around, again, I don't think we have that yet.
Any other comments from the board? Anybody ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the staff recommendation. This approach will provide transparency, will provide the ability for collaboration, and it will help the LCAP do its job. So that's why I'm making the motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Any second?
I second. I'm in agreement with Member Grindel.
A motion made by Member Grindal, seconded by Member Nguyen. Student board member, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Grindal, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Hill, how do you vote?
No.
Member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries with 3 ayes. Member Hill voted no, and Member Marcus is absent. Moving on to the next item, 12.2 Chromebook purchase. Superintendent Triplett.
Thank you, President Jun. So I'm going to turn this one over to Ms. Delacruz to speak a little bit about that. But essentially, this is a continuation of our goal of being able to have up-to-date computers, and we do want to make sure we stay on top of this because we are having many of our computers are nearing the end of life, and they're no longer working well. And I know during COVID it was a frustration for both students and staff when computers at home were glitching and not working very well, and so we're grateful to have this opportunity to utilize these one-time funds to make this purchase. Ms. Delacruz?
Not much more to add, but thank you, Dr. Triplett. This board item is a recommendation to approve 1,100 replacement Chromebooks. And this is a good opportunity for us to continue to update our equipment and use our one-time COVID money. We have Chromebooks that are nearing their end of life, and this purchase would include the 1,100. And also, it includes a 3-year warranty, which has theft and loss as part of it as well.
So I guess a question has been answered to the board that I think in that reply email that it looks like we have 2,900 Chromebook that will be end of life by summer of 2022. Is that correct? So there will be, I guess, we'll be approving additional purchase of Chromebook by then, right?
Yes, hopefully we'll be able to have additional funding to continue to replace our end of life.
So that 2,900, after this 1,100, we only have 1,800, right? Is that right? The number is right? 1,800 will be reaching the end of June. Will be reaching the end of life June 2022, right?
No, they had, last year in 2020, June or July 2020, we had also approved 1,800 a purchase for 1,800 Chromebooks. So if they replace it, an additional 2,900 next or at the end of the school year, then we would be comparable to what we currently may have, a 1-to-1 ratio for students, correct?
Yeah, it's in addition. So last year we replaced 2,000, about 2,000, the 1,800 that were nearing end of life. And then, so with this purchase, the 1,100, now we'll have the 2,900, almost 3,000 of new computers that will be good for another 5 years. And then at the end of the year, we'll need to look at replacing another 2,000 or so.
So we're expecting another 2,000 that we'll need to approve.
Yes.
Okay. Member Grindel?
I want to thank staff for being on top of these equipment needs. It is clear that this kind of equipment is critical for the educational process, and applaud staff for monitoring the lifespan of this equipment and staying on top of it. I also want to particularly compliment staff for using the piggyback bid process. And it's an efficient way to get the best price, but also save staff's time. So I applaud you for taking that approach. Thank you.
Member Hill?
Yeah, so a couple questions. So first off, when we talk about end of life, are we defining that in an accounting term? So we're saying that it's a fixed asset and then it's become fully depreciated? Or is this from a technology perspective? How are we defining end of life?
Based on 5-year expected life of each Chromebook.
Okay, so it's more of an accounting. I mean, so we're establishing like it's a fixed asset, and we're establishing a 5-year life period for that fixed asset.
Yes.
Okay, so but it could theoretically still be usable.
Possibly for a few months or maybe up to a year, because normally after 5 years, the computers, the Chromebooks are outdated in terms of the software and updates, what the specs.
Right, and the reason I ask, I mean, and I understand, I'm not saying that we, that we try to hold on necessarily to old technology, but Chromebooks are sort of a different situation, right? Because literally they're just a browser, and so in a lot of ways it's a simplified, so they theoretically could have a longer life than maybe some, a standard PC or a standard Mac. But that's fine, that assumption. But what would be helpful is, and this gets to President Zhang's kind of point, is, my experience in business, whenever, I'm presented with situations where I need to approve a purchase, I want to be able to see the whole picture. And so I want to be able to see, all right, so here we have a universe of Chromebooks, however many that is, and then here's the schedule that shows, X% are going to be coming at end of life for this date, X% are going to be coming the following year, X% are going to be coming the year after that, and that we can also then project costs, because it becomes very uncomfortable when we're just sort of seeing one data point and we don't know, we're eating the elephant in bites versus seeing the whole picture. So, I think for future requests, we really need to see the whole picture. I mean, otherwise it's hard for us to make a judicious decision on that.
Student board member, I think you raised your hand.
Yes, I did. So I actually have two questions. Will these replacements be sufficient for all students across the district? And my second question is, when will this order take place, if it does? And addressing Mr. Hill's comment, I would like to say from a student's perspective, some of these computers are missing keyboard letters.
Yes.
They have cracked screens, dim lights, you can barely see, and students have to work through this. So I do understand that it's a 5-year limit, as Ms. Dela Cruz said, but I do not recommend going past that, or maybe it should even be less, because we do need better technology at the high school right now.
Yes, I'm in agreement with student board member, and I've seen enough where we've rolled out in my own workplace that end of life there's a recommendation for the technology use of end of life, but yes, you will see that the devices do not last that long just because Chromebooks are known to be just as browsers. They're really not. They're still devices and they get handled and mishandled. So yes, so definitely end of life could be used loosely in this sense, and the replacement of it is also, you have to take into consideration the devices getting lost or stolen or misplaced. So those are all kinds of things that go into it, not just, a financial depreciation of the device itself.
And that's why I was asking the question, because I think that we need actually a lot more granularity. Because, when we're saying end of life, okay, if it's purely a fixed asset accounting terminology, that's one thing, okay? And so you can say, all right, if our projected 5-year, our projected end of life is 5 years, and then we automatically retire assets at that point, that's a policy. But then there's other things that could be going on, and again, these are, important financial decisions. So, for example, if we have things that are breaking earlier than that, are we taking advantage of warranty, right? And so are we actually getting the proper reimbursements that we're due if they're still under warranty? If there are situations where we're having things, God forbid, stolen or otherwise, all right, so that's a misallocation of assets, right? And we need to be very careful. So I think we need to start seeing, again, it would give us a lot of comfort if I think we see, okay, here are the units that are being replaced, here's the reason why, and if everything's above board, it's great, but if there's some problematic things going on where we're seeing that all of these Chromebooks are failing within 1 year, well, so there's a deeper issue we gotta address. So that's where I think we need to see more granularity.
Okay, so I have one final comment regarding the students' questions. So the board did get an email response for the question on this item sent to the entire board, but you probably didn't get that one.
I did.
Oh, I see. So to address the last part of the question, I don't believe after updating all of these, we'll have 1-to-1 ratio for every student.
Yeah.
I think there are still some discrepancy that we'll need to work on. And speaking of the whole picture, I think we have, in that email, we have up to, I guess, the 2,900 numbers up to June I think June 30th, 2022. So we sort of have at least a medium-term picture of how much we need.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
A motion, then a comment, then a motion, if that's okay, President. It's my understanding that staff is using this 5-year timeframe as a sort of planning guide, that you're working to make sure the students have the equipment that they need. And I'll speak as just one board member, that if you need more equipment to do that, you should be bringing that to us. But I understand the 5-year lifespan as a planning goal, and to give some sort of a context. So so I just wanted to be clear about that. And now I'd like to move to approve the staff recommendation to purchase 1,100 replacement Chromebooks.
I'll second this. Motion made by Member Grindal, seconded by myself. Student board member, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Grindal, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Hill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries unanimously. Member Marcus is absent. Moving on to item, section 13, organization of the board, 13.1 is pulled since member Marcus is absent. Jumping to 13.2, governance handbook amendment. This is purely discussion and board internal discussion. This item was requested by member Grindal in the previous board meeting. So I will let you start the reason that you are requesting this item.
Yes, the governance handbook includes discussion of a leadership rotation, which is actually also contradicted in other locations in the guidebook, the governance handbook. Sorry, I believe that the officers of the board should be elected by a majority of the board members without any sort of artificial rotational assignment. The board should be able to elect the officers that it wants, and in fact, that is the case. There are other parts of this discussion in the handbook that discuss the fact that there has to be a vote, and there's no dictation of what can be voted on. So I would like to see this whole leadership rotation discussion stricken, and simply rely upon the other language that says that board members are voted into office by a majority of the board.
Member Hill?
So we had at least one study session on this topic, and we talked extensively about this, and we talked about how the tradition at Newark is to follow this basically tenure, for lack of a better term, and we talked about whether we should continue it or not, and I even asked that question, but we talked at length, and we all agreed that we should continue to follow that. And again, this was, I know at least, and part of this was actually facilitated by our former CSBA consultant, and I know that we had a follow-up discussion around this as well. And so I don't know why we're now talking about throwing out, again, I don't know how long, but years and years of tradition and protocol. So what's the motivation, and why are we now changing our minds?
Any other comments?
I just want to make a statement that, this is a working, living document, so changes can be made. We don't necessarily have to follow what preceded us before, but again, I'm just, making that statement. And that could go for a lot of other things. We're here to set policy and make changes to it, to certain things, if we're all in agreement or majority in agreement. So I think this is something that is brought up by Member Grindal, so I'm going to let him expand on his thoughts on it. But just a reminder that, again, we don't have to live and die by this document. It is a living document that we can make changes to.
Yes, I guess I'd like to address Member Hill's comment. For me, that understanding tradition, but still, this tradition is undemocratic. It establishes an order based on seniority, and I've been involved in many leadership organizations like this, and it's much better for a transparent democratic process to be used instead of relying on inferences and past traditions, particularly when it's contradicted by other parts of the handbook.
So I want to make a comment on this. So if you look at our current handbook, even if it's a rotation, somebody still needs to make a motion to elect the president. You still need to have a second, and you still need to have a majority of the vote. So in a certain way, that is the somewhat quote-unquote democratic way to elect a president. Well, speaking of formality or like protocol or tradition, I mean, when somebody made a motion to elect the next person on the rotation to be president, and then somebody make a second, should you vote no? Can you vote no? Yes, legally, you obviously can vote no. But if you vote no, I mean, from my perspective, that is untraditional and sort of unprecedented. However, I do want to make a point. Voting unprecedentedly is not something new to this board. I mean, as a matter of fact, in the past 10 months, I've seen more unprecedented vote and untraditional vote than the previous year combined do I support that changing this protocol? Right now, I'm on the fence. I'm probably not going to support this changing this rotation, just because from day one of this new board convened, I said I'm a traditionalist, I'm an institutionalist. I want to minimize the number of unprecedented votes and unprecedented moves. So like I said, right now I'm actually leaning against changing this because I still think the rotation is somehow years of protocol, years of tradition, and when somebody proposes a new president, somebody make a second, yes, you need a majority of the vote, but it's within our tradition to have a unanimous yes to support the next person on rotation to be the president. But like I said, the one thing that's really surprised me about this board in the past 10 months when I was the president is that the amount of unprecedented votes that this board has taken, which is eye-opening to me, which in a certain way I was very disheartened to see the number of untraditional, unprecedented votes that's taken place in this board. But given that this is just an initial discussion, and we have one board member that's absent, so we'll have chance to have additional discussion when we have a full board present. So that's my final comments. Now, this is not set in stone. We'll have additional discussion on this topic. Any more final comment before we move on to the next item?
I just want to make one point. The guidelines, the handbook actually indicates under board leadership rotation that recognizing that the leadership should be shared among members, a rotation in leadership will be practiced by the board as stated below, and then with some detail. And then later it talks about it being a majority vote. So if nothing else, we need to resolve that conflict. If we are bound to do it, then it should say that, and the contradiction should be removed. However, I believe I support President Zhang's idea of bringing it back to the full board, but I do think that at the very least we need to resolve that inconsistency.
Okay, so we'll have additional discussion once we have a full board. So moving on to 13.3 board vacancy procedure. So this is again internal board discussion. And Member Grindal, you raised this last time. I will let you start.
Yes. First of all, I want to be clear that I'm very happy with the outcome of the appointment process. I believe that Member Marquez will be a fantastic board member, and so there's in no way any reflection on that process. However, going through that process did cause all the board members to look into this in a little more detail, and I'm concerned about the appearance of less than perfect transparency. I would like to see that I'd like to see changes in this policy that make the appointment process much more clear and transparent, that remove the subcommittee of the board in having any role whatsoever, and have that role being taken by the superintendent, and making it very clear that every person who applies to be appointed, if they meet the qualifications as stated in our laws, will be presented to the board for determination. And that's what happened in this case. But the possibility that there's a subcommittee meeting that would limit or make decisions about who would be interviewed by the board is a bad look, and I'd like to see us remove that uncertainty so we have a clear and transparent process.
Any other comment from the board? Member Hill?
Yeah, I think we need to have a study session on this, and maybe a couple, because I think that we have to spill out a lot of the steps and protocols, because I think that there were a lot of gaps.
Any other comments from the board?
I'm open to hear our other board members make their case in terms of why we should make changes to the current process and to the board policy.
Yeah, I want to repeat my previous comment. Generally, I'm a traditionalist and institutionalist. I'm open to new ideas, but you better have very, very strong and good idea to convince me that we'll change this current protocol. Because the way we appoint people has been happening for the past 20 years, and we didn't have any problem with this way of appointing people. So given we don't have a full board, we'll bring it back for further discussion once we have a full board. Moving on to consent calendar, 14.2 personnel report. This is a personnel report, and student board member doesn't get a vote, and I move that we ratify the personnel report as presented. May I get a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Member Nguyen. Member Grindel, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Hill, how do you vote?
As I've mentioned before, since I have no idea who sits on the hiring committees or how these processes are performed, and basically it's not transparent to me, I can't support decisions for hiring without knowing who the people are and the processes and some type of report out. So I vote no until that changes and greater transparency occurs.
So I remember your concerns for the executive level people and principal, right?
It flows downhill, right? So first you start with the hiring committees that hire the cabinet, and then those people then get involved in lower level decisions. If I don't see transparency at the top, how can I make sure it's flowing down all the way to the bottom?
Yeah, the reason I mentioned this, today's personnel report generally are entry level hiring.
I understand. Like I said, it flows down.
Okay. Member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yes.
My vote is a small motion carried with 3 ayes. Member Hill voted no. Moving on to consent calendar, non-personnel items. I want to pull item 15.5.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, President Chen.
Yeah.
We'd also like to pull, we'd actually like to pull 15.5 from the agenda
Okay, I see.
and bring it back.
Okay. So I move that we'll approve consent calendar, non-personnel items, 15.2 contract with Weldon Inc. for special education services, 15.3 warrant report for September 2021, 15.4 monthly financial report July, August, September 2021, 15.6 Williams Uniform Complaint Quarterly Report July 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2021, 15.7 Donations Report, 15.8 Minutes of the October 7th, 2021 regular meeting of the Board of Education. May I get a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Member Grindel. Student board member, how do you vote? Yes. Member Grindel, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Hill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carries unanimously. Member Marcus is absent.
President Zhang, sorry, clarification.
Yeah?
Did did the board just vote on all of them except 15.5?
It's been pulled.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll need to read out the donation report. Superintendent Triplett.
Thank you, President Chen. 1 second, please. So the donation report is as follows for this board meeting. A donation of $37.49 from Amazon Smile, $180 for Newark Memorial High School from Alameda County Pay Mode, and $4,639.45 for Newark Memorial High School from Donors Choose.
Thank you for all the generous donors for your support of our district. Moving on to Board of Education recognition and announcement, 16.1, student board member.
I would like to give a recognition to our leadership director, Ms. Canales. She truly helps all of ASB plan the events and go through everything we've been seeing planned, from homecoming to the Unity Day we'll be having tomorrow. She truly makes sure we're on task, and we love her for it. So I want to give her recognition for that.
Thank you, Member Grindel.
Yes, I want to thank all the staff and classified and unclassified employees, and as well as the management staff for the hard work they're doing to educate our children in these difficult times. So I really just appreciate everything you're doing. I lost what. Oh, of course. I also want to wish everyone a happy Halloween and happy Dia de los Muertos. Coming up, this is our last regular meeting at that time, so I want to wish the whole school community, whole educational community, a wonderful holiday.
Member Hill.
Yeah, as a teacher, I understand the challenges that teachers are facing as we come back to in-person instruction. And so dealing with the learning loss, dealing with lots of extra protocols, dealing with the fact that we have a substitute shortage. And so I just want to give a shout out to our teachers, because I know that they're on the front lines and they're doing a lot, and it's tough, but again, we appreciate it. So thank you.
Member Nguyen?
Yes, I too echo the same sentiments as fellow board member Hill and Grandel, and just wanted to thank all the teachers for all their hard work, perseverance, and resilience throughout distance learning, and then also being back into in-person learning. So thank you so much, and also thank you to the rest of the staff for all their wonderful help in supporting all the teachers and all the students as well. CSEA members, you are also we are very much grateful for all of your hard work and efforts to make sure that safety is in place for our teachers and the students and the rest of our staff. So thank you. And then lastly, yes, happy Halloween to all the students. And I know that the high school is having an event, correct?
Yes, we are.
Is it?
We'll be having a trunk or treat. I was going to mention it in the student report, but we
Oh,
didn't get
sorry.
to.
Oh, you can, and so that would be fun. And then lastly, it is also Down Syndrome Awareness Month, so I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge that and know that we are in support of all of our students here in the district, and especially any of our students who are who do have Down syndrome or their families. So again, wanted to point that out, that it is a Down Syndrome Awareness Month. Thank you.
I want to echo what the rest of the board has said. And in addition, as we're wishing everybody a happy Halloween, we're entering the holiday season. And this holiday season, compared to last year and probably compared to many years before, is probably going to be the most challenging holiday season for our community. Obviously, pandemic is one thing, and due to the disruption of global supply chain and the disruption of energy supply, the rising price of grocery, gasoline, these things are here to stay. And if you look into the horizon, there's really no quick fix. There's no quick solution for this. And speaking of gasoline price, I guess it's topping $5, and that is before the tech industry starts commuting again next year. So I can only anticipate the gas to continue to climb in prices. So I hope in this holiday season that most of us, or those of us who are relatively well off, can be extra generous to help those who are less fortunate in our community. Because I've been living in this country for 16 years. I've never seen runaway price increase like this for the past 16, 17 years. This is quite unprecedented when it comes to the price of food, price of grocery, price of gasoline, price of literally everything. And hope in this holiday season that we can all contribute a little bit, if we can, to help everyone in this community. That's my announcement. Moving on to the next item, 16.2, Board of Education Committee reports. Mission Valley ROP, since I am right now the president of Mission Valley ROP, we had our regular monthly meeting last week. Nothing really stood out. SELPA is also myself. Nothing to report for SELPA. What about liaison committee?
I was gonna let Member Nguyen go first, but I just, if you'd like me to go first, Member Nguyen, I just want to particularly thank the Newark City Council and City Manager Benoon for their help and mobilizing their own resources to help us with the crisis that we had about staffing with crossing guards. So I really appreciate them stepping up, using police and Explorer resources to help safeguard the safety of our children, and look forward to continued partnership with them.
I couldn't have said it better, so thank you, Member Grandel.
I guess nothing from EVIC. What about the audit committee?
No reports.
And I guess no report from the parcel tax committee.
That's correct.
Moving on to Board of Education request, student board member.
I am actually unsure if I can make this request, but I was wondering if I could request for a translator to be present at board meetings physically, so we could have easier translation between Spanish-speaking parents or private citizens and the board members understanding it.
Okay, so do we have the online translator present today, or she's not present today?
She is not present today. Ms. Gutierrez, do you want to explain a little bit about the situation?
Yes, currently, we are facing similar difficulties as with subs. We're facing similar difficulties with finding translators. And as well, we did reach out to the agency that our first source is our internal NUSD translators. And when those are not available, the next resources are agencies. And we did reach out to an agency who unfortunately could not provide any translators tonight either.
Member Grindel?
Nothing further tonight.
Member Hill?
Yeah, I have two requests. So one is a follow-up request, and I spoke with Dr. Triplett about this earlier. So, appreciate him trying to expedite requests. So I know that Member Gradell had brought up two requests last session that have gotten on the agenda. I still have an outstanding request, which is that I had requested that we have regular reporting of grievances that have been filed, and I'd like to make that a standing item in our closed session. And then also would like to have some regular reporting either in open session or closed session, because I'm getting a lot of disturbing reports from the community about things that are going on at the high school in terms of, I'm hearing, again, through the rumor mill versus through official channels about lockdowns, about sexual assaults, about numerous fights, about our campus not being closed, which it should be. And again, I don't know whether there's any truth to this or not, but, I think that we need some regular briefing going on if there are challenges going so that we can take action on those. So those are my two requests.
I don't have a request, but I do have a comment. Yes, there has been briefings sent out to us via email by the superintendent and in regards to any situations that are happening at any of the high schools, especially the lockdown. I got the information. So yeah. So yes, he has been updating us on those kinds of situations. So I wanted to make that clear.
So, Student Board, I'm not sure whether you received the weekly confidential report from the superintendent.
I don't believe I do, but I do
But
live
the board
through
does
it.
receive
So.
the weekly, I think.
I'm not getting that. So maybe I'm just not on the distribution list.
No, sorry, just to be clear, that I think you're referring to, President Jean, the answering of the questions from the.
I believe you have superintendent memo, right? I mean, I haven't received that for the past 2 or 3 weeks, but we receive things from you regularly about superintendent update Wednesday or something.
Yeah, so there's been no Wednesday memos sent out this year, just to be clear, so that people don't think that they didn't get something that other people did. But I do send out regular updates about different situations, like Member Wen mentioned, send out updates around incidents that have occurred. And so those do go out regular, and those
Okay,
are
so-
received by everybody, not just some.
All right, so I apologize if I missed that in email. I'll go back and I'll confirm, so.
I think the title says confidential.
Okay. Okay, all right, thank you.
I somehow remember think some of these titles does have the word confidential there. That's forwarded to the entire board.
Okay, again, if that's been sent out, then I apologize.
Normally, if there's a fire or if there's a fight happening at school site, I generally was, like even a kitchen fire or some power outage, generally I was informed right on the scene about different school sites. Speaking of the grievance request, I believe that was sort of approved by the board several months ago. And yeah, I'll be interested to see a summary about any grievance on the, and I believe it's NTA specific, right?
Sorry, yeah, I don't believe that the board agreed on that. So if that is the case, that the board wishes to receive regular reporting on grievances, we would definitely need to.
I don't think it's regular. It's one time.
No, I'd requested regular.
We would definitely need to get clarity on what, because we have different kinds of grievances for different things, and so we definitely want to get clarity on grievances from who, and then we'd also want to make sure that we were able, from a confidentiality standpoint, providing that. So if the board does wish to get either one-time or regular reports on grievances, that we definitely need to get more details about that so we can make sure that we're following both the direction of the board and also any sort of legal.
And I mean, closed session, I guess my question is, would that be significant consumption of staff time to do that?
Again, I don't think it's clear what is being asked. Agreed, there's different kinds of complaints that come in, different kinds of grievances. If you're talking about
I'm talking
labor
about grievances from either classified or certificated personnel.
Those are all HR confidential information.
So those are things we can discuss, we can review and discuss in closed session.
I think if there's a grievance against you, probably yes, but
No. There is no information that can be kept from the board. There is no secret that can be kept from the board. That's the purpose of closed session.
I understand, but you're getting into the weeds of personnel issues that are.
Point of order, board members. Since there is a request from a board member, it might be easier to get a vote from the entire board.
Thank you.
So you want discussion in the closed session with those things?
So I want just a regular report that's provided to us in closed session of grievances that are coming from classified and certificated personnel.
But do we have discussion on that? Or just a report?
I mean,
Because I'm not ready to discuss these things in closed session. I can just have if the reservoir want to just see, just read it, and then that's it. I don't really want to discuss any personnel issue, even in closed session.
I mean, we discuss other personnel issues, so what's the
No,
difference?
you're opening us up for liabilities. No.
There's no liability.
I guess, if the board wants to make a decision about directing us in this way, it seems like the board should come to an agreement or decide that that's not what they wish.
In my, okay. In my mind, we would hear about grievances that are going to affect the school district and our budget through due course. So I did not support a report of grievances that have been filed with the HR. That's something that should be done. It's a personnel matter. It should be done by school district staff.
I'm in agreement with Member Grindel, especially on those two terms.
Given there are no votes, so moving on to, I don't have any requests either. Superintendent, concluding comments. Dr. Triplett?
Thank you, President Chen. Just want to conclude with another appreciation for the Coyote Hills staff and leadership. I actually had the honor of visiting Coyote Hills today, which I do every couple weeks, and was in Miss Weck's class and Miss Salazar's class, kindergarten and first grade. It was really wonderful. And that team is just doing such amazing work and working really, really hard to come together as one community, and so I wanted to appreciate them. And then lastly, just wanted to continue to encourage our community to get vaccinated. We are anticipating from the health department that next week we most likely will hear about emergency authorization for students who are ages 6 to 12. And so, again, want to really encourage families to get vaccinated, get their children vaccinated, and we have lots of different opportunities to support families to do that, which is free and easy, and that's going to be the way that we continue to fight this virus. Thank you.
Can I just make a
Okay.
I also wanted to recognize all of the PTAs in the district and all the families who are in support of the PTA and helping all of the students and the school sites with additional funding and fundraising for the teachers. It is much appreciated. And then lastly, the Moderna booster has been approved. So if you need to get your booster, Pfizer is not the only one. So thank you.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
I second.
Seconded by Member Nguyen. Student Board Member, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Grindal, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Hill, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Meeting adjourned in the memory and the great honor of our history teacher at Newark Junior High School, Lisa Merrill. Everyone else, please have a great rest of the night. Bye-bye.